Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. Cowboy here. It is 8:30 a.m. EST. Actually, it's 8:31 a.m. EST, and we're taking a look at the Bitcoin chart. Of course, everybody's watching it. Everything's taking a hit. Stock market's taking a hit. Been watching it going on for, going back to the end of January, really. We've been seeing this whole thing drop. Bitcoin itself is now down, let's see, 30%. I think that's about right. Let's take a look here. Currently down 25% and was down 30%, almost exactly. But we have a double bottom on the daily, almost. Like the daily candle has to close. There are yet many hours left before that daily candle closes, right? But if that daily candle can close above, say, 78,500, a little bit higher than that, maybe 78,600, then technically we've got a double bottom. Now, the only thing that gives me sort of a lack of confidence on that, I mean, yes, it's a double bottom, but there's no support going back here for that, right? The closest support that we have at that double bottom really is anything tangible and real is going to be about 74,000. So had this double bottom occurred at 74,000, I'd be a little bit more confident the price would head up if that did happen. Right now, it does look like that double bottom is going to maintain, but there's a lot of time left in this candle. According to this candle, we're sitting at, let's make sure we got this right. Yeah, no, we're looking at least another 12 hours for however this is set up. I'm not sure why it's set up the way it is, but at least another 12 hours on this before this candle is done, at least how this chart is laid out. So, that's a lot of time. I mean, Bitcoin could easily just completely come down and crush this. Even if it doesn't, even if the double candle remains, the only kind of possible structure to look at is this little blip on the way up right there. And that's not a whole lot. All right. Now, technically, it's there, so it matters. You can see that on the way up, there's a bit of a stair step up. And that bit of price action here is more or less where things are bouncing on this, right? So if you go back here, you'll see it right there, dipped right into that. But that's not a whole lot of structure. I'd want to see at least this area here get touched, or this area here is kind of the same thing. Either this area or that area. Again, that's 74,000. So had that double bottom happen at 74,000, I'd be a little more confident. Again, it hasn't technically happened yet. We got to let this candle close, this daily candle, right? So we'll see how that goes. Just have to watch it and see how that goes. Now, as far as the algos are concerned, the charts are in a bit of a spot where things could level out, right? You're seeing a little bit of bullishness, but in the end, high time frame, things are still all very bearish. So we're going to see if this daily, support can kind of hold. If I were to take a guess at how things could go over the next 24 hours, I'd think it would be sideways to down, right? So we could get lucky and see a bit of a pop upwards on the corn. That's very possible. The corn being Bitcoin. It's just old funny way of saying it. So maybe it goes up a little more, and then you see something like this, and just some kind of messing around type stuff, right? There's always that possibility, though, that we do see the bears take back over, and I think a lot of it's going to have to do with how futures go in the especially the Nasdaq. And Nasdaq right now is also showing a little bit of a bounce, but we've seen bounces just like this all the way down, and they've all got eaten up. So this bounce on the Nasdaq is not special that we're seeing right here. And we're looking on a 3-hour chart right here. So this little bounce that we see right here, right, that bounce, there's those are a dime a dozen all the way down, going back a few weeks. Those are really not that impressive. So unless this bounce really becomes a little more extended on the NASDAQ, there's a good chance this is going to continue down, especially if we look at this is all pretty bearish right here. So I'm expecting the NASDAQ to flop. Once again, now it might not happen right this moment, but it looks like it may be happening pretty soon. I'd say NASDAQ is probably going to open It might head sideways a little bit here, but as the market opens, it'll probably have a move down. And as that happens, it's going to be a pretty big, pretty tall order for Bitcoin not to continue down as well. And so this is why I expect a very strong possibility of Bitcoin heading down, and it might not even go much up farther. It might just be that Bitcoin came up to grab some liquidity that might have been up in this area right around here. As a matter of fact, we're going to take a look at the liquidity maps so that we can have an idea of where those liquidity nodes are. And that might give us some clues as to where Bitcoin might go in the near term. Okay. We are over at the kingfisher.io. Really great resource. Really recommend you all take a look at it. There is a link in the description. And there's not a whole lot of liquidity. I mean, there's a little bit sitting up at like 82,320. This is on the all leverage. So I could go to high leverage just to see if there's some kind of more obvious targets in the near term. And there's barely anything above. Everything right now is below 78,000, 77,000. Those are the near nodes of liquidity. So the high 70s is what is most likely as price heads down, if and as price heads down. If we take a look at all leverage once again with Bitcoin, we'll see that the larger nodes of liquidity are sitting down in the low 70s with all kinds of liquidity on the way down. So a lot of longs got taken out. A lot of liquidity got taken out of the market. Now there's not a lot of liquidity for shorts yet. The market is still pretty long. You can see a lot of liquidity on the bottom here. So, with that, the market is still confident that the bull is not quite over. And remember, this is something that I do share with I have shared with some people pretty recently. As we can see, first of all, it does look like we might be starting to see that move down, right? I think the market is seeing what the NASDAQ is doing and not doing, and there's a good chance we're going to see Bitcoin go ahead and head down right now. Not a lot of liquidity topside. There probably was some overnight that I just, was asleep and didn't see. But either way, one thing to watch is some of the older price action. If we look at some of the prior bear and bull markets, what you'll notice is that, first of all, a 30% pullback in a bull market has already happened. 35% happened last year, so not a big deal. We're only at 25% now, so this doesn't mean that the bull is over. And if we take a look at the last bull market, look at this. You had from March to May, from March to May. So I think that was like the end of March. No, okay, forgive me. That was April. So midway through April through May, so about a month, price fell, and it fell 55%. And then it climbed all the way back up to reclaim and even beat that high. And then we had the bear market ensue. So understand that you can get a 50, 60% pullback and the bull market's not done yet. These Bitcoin cycles are changing cycle by cycle, little by little. And that has a lot to do, I think, with the institutional money coming in and kind of making things not quite as predictable as they used to be. And that's fine. It is what it is. I'm not that concerned with what happens in 2 months, right? I'm a trader. I do think that Bitcoin over the long term is going to go up. And I think we might even see a new high before this is over, or else an attempt to reclaim that high. But if it were to follow that same pattern, you would have about a month's worth of Bitcoin falling, right? So roughly now, maybe, could take a little bit longer. And then you would see price head back up, maybe after a few weeks of bouncing around. Where's my arrows here? Bouncing around and then heading up there. That's kind of a similar pattern, except this would have to go all the way down somewhere around here, like, 50% dump would be down towards like 50,000. And that would be like the same pattern as the prior bull market. So a lot of people, really are not comfortable with that idea, but we saw it. We saw it last cycle for Bitcoin to just head down 50% and then pop back up. So that could happen. And it happened last cycle, and it's totally very realistic. I mean, if you want to keep it super simple and look at it from a price action standpoint, you have price heading up. you have price pulling back, price heading up. And when price pulls back, it's going to want to pull back to grab liquidity right in this area where the prior pullback was. That's where it's going to want to go. And that's where it's headed. So for price to hit 74,000, it's very realistic. And it could go anywhere in here to grab liquidity before it goes up. And that's if it's going to go up. It might be that 109 was the top and that was the end of the bull. I don't think it's that likely. I think what we're seeing right now is a pullback. It has a lot more to do with the traditional finance pullbacks than it is to do with Bitcoin itself. But in the, that also is a key thing that we're not necessarily thinking about, or at least not a lot of crypto people are thinking about, is the fact that the NASDAQ and its price action is going to have a lot to do with what Bitcoin does in the near term. So we are seeing quite a pullback in the traditional finance markets. Tomorrow is CPI. We could get some respite from that. But in the meantime, until this NASDAQ pullback and the rest of the indices, until those stop pulling back, Bitcoin probably is going to continue to fall down. And remember, in 2022, that's what we saw. We saw a pullback, and that was around the time that Russia started its operation in Ukraine. So, we could be seeing kind of a similar sync up of the markets. And then the stock market at that time pulled back for a long time, pulled back for like a year. So we'll see what happens. Meantime, let's go ahead and hop over to the private live lab because it is time to do that. I want to invite everybody to come over to algofactory.tech, right? Now, what we do over at Algo Factory is we, let's see, sorry, I got a little confused here. What's going on with my Telegram? It's acting weird. At algofactory.tech, we teach people how to build trading algos. We teach people how to basically trade. I mean, if you want to say it very simply, and when we, sorry about this, guys. Sorry, I'm like in the middle of my freaking pitch here, and my system's getting all funky. Long story short, if you want to learn how to trade like a hedge fund pro, come to algofactory.tech, right? It's pretty awesome. We teach people how to do this all the time. We're very good at what we do. And, we hope to see you over there. Yeah, it's killer, man. It's take advantage of these moves. Like this move right here, this move down on Bitcoin in particular, I made money on that. And everybody at Algo Factory got to see me make money as I made money on that. I literally said, hey, I'm going to enter right here, right? This is where I'm going to go and take a short. And I took it all the way down and I took profit. Not quite the bottom here, but still a beautiful 4-to-1 trade. I talked about it last week. So that's it, though. Algofactory.tech. Learn how to trade like a hedge fund pro. We'll see you tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. sharp.